At the moment, we're trying to catch between sets Ira Sullivan. He is close by and at hand, and we'll pick him up at the Cafe Luxford in Minneapolis. I think I have this multi-talented player of trumpet, flugelhorn, flute, alto flute, et al. And are you there, Ira?
I'm right here, Leigh.
Well, it's nice to have you in the area again, in Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Well, it's certainly good to be back here. It's been a little while since we talked, but now it seems like 5 minutes hearing your voice on the air. I remember we did an interview when I was over at the artist quarters.
That is true, and it was a privilege to talk with you. And also, at this moment, I want to just touch base and say that it is just fascinating to watch you move among those instruments: trumpet, flugelhorn, flute, alto flute, soprano, tenor. That's quite a test for a musician.
You better be careful. The people might think I do it all at once, like Roland Kirk, you know?
Yes, that's right. And he did manage to do all of that simultaneously.
He certainly did, but I don't do it simultaneously, but I do it as the man in the paper just wrote about it, to achieve whatever orchestral sounds or musical sounds I want to hear at the time, you know. And it also makes very interesting for the rhythm section, because they're not locked into one sound or one style of playing, as you notice. And you're doing a wonderful job here. I can't begin to tell you how great it is down at the Cafe at the Lux. And by the way, I might inform you too, Joe Lovano just came in and played our last set.
Oh, he sat in, did he?
Joe played over, well, he's going to play this last set too. I'm managing to squeeze an extra set out of the people here. They're letting me go late, you know, as late as we can. So I thought maybe we'd keep it going till you got off at 3, and then you could come in for the last set, you know.
I'd love to. Keep it going.
But anyway, Joe sat in, and of course Bobby Peterson is on piano, and a wonderful bass player. It's the first time I've got to play with him. He's playing the stick bass, as you notice, which is quite an unusual electric bass. And Kenny Horst, it's Jay Young I'm talking about, and then Kenny Horst on the drums. And it's been really nice. This is quite a very interesting place to play, this little cafe here.
Very intimate, isn't it?
Yes, it is really nice, and I like it that it's accessible. It's on the street. People walk by the windows, and they can look in, you know. It's not tucked away in some remote corner somewhere.
And you no doubt have some of the crowd that just broke from Sommerfest over at Orchestra Hall.
Yes, they're just starting to come in.
Because we have those kinds of listeners, you know, and an audience here that listens to jazz and listens to symphony and goes to the opera.
That's the beautiful part about it. You know, I've been staying here downtown, and I get to hear the orchestra rehearse, and I also hear these outdoor concerts they're doing. And it's wonderful. I just open my windows, and the sound is there. So I'm quite inspired and motivated during my stay here in Minneapolis.
Ira Sullivan, about your career at the moment and in the recent time, you might bring us up to date as to where you've been and what you've been performing and where, what all.
Well, I make these trips to, I travel, but not quite as extensively as I was doing with Red Rodney during the 80s, you know.
Yes.
I don't make those long trips. I have 2 new children at home, my 2 little granddaughters, so now I have another role to fulfill here along with my jazz explorations. And, of course, I do go out. I go to Colorado and Arizona, and I go to Chicago about 3 or 4 times a year. And now I also have just left the weekend before I came here, our 2nd annual Ira Sullivan Jazz Arts Festival in Saugatuck, Douglas, Michigan. 2 little twin towns, just like you have Minneapolis, St. Paul. These are 2 small resort towns in Saugatuck, Michigan. Douglas is right across the bridge, where we play in a big tent, and we bring about 50 musicians up from Chicago, and they split up into ensemble groups in all the little clubs around there. So it's quite an interesting weekend.
Oh, it sounds splendid. A good way to spend the summer.
Yes, it really is wonderful. I used to go up there in the 50s and play, and all the people remembered me from up there, so they formed a jazz festival. I went up to play it last year. I didn't even know it was called the Ira Sullivan Festival. And so now we've had our 2nd one, and it looks like it's going to be a yearly thing.
Well, that describes the impact that you made on that community.
Yes. And believe me, it's quite an honor. I'm quite proud to have it, because it's a wonderful, wonderful weekend filled with jazz. We even had morning devotionals, would you believe, on Sunday morning. I went in there and we started playing at 10:45 in the morning, and we had opened up with a 16-piece bell choir, and I got to play flute with that, and then followed by a wonderful brass choir, the Titan Brass, and I got to play trumpet and flugelhorn with them. And then we moved from there into a jazz trio, and it just went on all day until 12 o'clock at night. It was just fantastic.
Oh, takes a lot of energy.
Yes, it does. But I got to play all day from 10 to 12. It was a 14-hour day for me, and that's what I thrive on, because I love to work. That's why I'm getting an extra set out of these people. When you bring 5 horns, you know, you got to have time to warm them all up.
I should say, how do you keep them warm?
Well, it's by constant playing. You know, when I play, I just that's the thing. I'd love to walk in and just play trumpet, which is my original instrument, but I've fallen in love with all these different instruments and ways to express myself, and so I just became a multi-instrumentalist. But the funny thing is, Leigh, that as I travel around now, there's a man in Seattle, Washington, they call the Ira Sullivan of the Northwest. His name is Jay Thomas. He's young, and he may even have a record by him, or you should get it. It's with the Cedar Walton Trio. And Jay Thomas, he plays trumpet, flugelhorn, alto, flute, tenor, and so they call him the Ira Sullivan of the Northwest.
Were you his teacher or coach or
No,
mentor?
but we played his dad's club when I was traveling with Red in Seattle. It was a very nice club, and I saw, of all people down there, I hadn't seen him or heard of him for years, Slim Gaylord. You remember Slim?
I certainly do.
Slim is living down there, and he used to come in the club all the time, and I met Jay at that time, and at that time he only played 4 instruments. So now, after he met me, he decided to get a soprano sax and get into the flute a little more. So they're springing up all over. I think I've started a new cult.
Well, Ira Sullivan, keep sowing those seeds. I know you want to get back on stand to take advantage of Joe Lovano's Pleasant.
Yes, we have one more set. We just had a beautiful set, and I can't say enough about how Bobby Peterson and Jay Young and Kenny Horst are playing. They just sound wonderful.
Well, you're a great group leader.
I'm trying to get them. I'm trying to talk to the owners here, and they're keeping me another week held over by popular demand. So if you can get a requisition, a list of 2,000 names, I think I can stay here another week.
Well, we'll beat the drum and drum some people in from the 5-state area and Ontario.
Oh, it'd be wonderful.
We'll see if we can get the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to come in for that extra added week if it materializes.
Right.
Well, it's splendid touching base with you again,
Well,
Ira.
it's nice talking to you, Leigh, and nice being able to talk to all your fans, and I hope they get a chance to come down. We'll be here
through Sunday night.
Through Sunday night, yes.
I've been talking with Ira Sullivan, that multi-talented trumpet player, flugelhorn artist, flute, alto, flute, soprano, and tenor. He's a complete section, brass and reeds. Keep your good health and wonderful enthusiasm and all that fine musical art going.
Well, thank you, Leigh.
Good night.
Good night.
See you on stand.
All right. Thanks again.